George Washington's last words were simple, "'Tis well." But hours before, he refused more treatment and calmly prepared to die. Something about his death remains quietly unsettling. On December 14, 1799, Washington felt ill at Mount Vernon. He had ridden in rain and snow. By the next day, he had a sore throat and trouble breathing. The illness came on fast. Within hours, his throat swelled, his voice weakened, and his breath grew labored. His doctors feared he wouldn't last the night. 3 physicians were summoned. Their remedy of choice? Bleed him. By the end, they had removed nearly 40% of his blood, trying to save him. But Washington didn't panic. He calmly told them he knew what was coming. He made only one request: let me die with dignity. He reportedly refused more aggressive procedures. Dr. Elisha Dick suggested a tracheotomy. It was too new, too risky. Washington declined. Instead of resisting death, Washington gave instructions. He organized his affairs, spoke clearly when he could, nodded when his voice failed him. His symptoms were odd: difficulty breathing, swollen throat, sweating, yet no fever. Some believe it was acute epiglottitis, not a typical infection. Others suggest bacterial laryngitis or a severe allergic reaction. Even now, his exact cause of death is still debated. He knew it was the end. Yet he didn't cry out. He didn't demand more care. He folded his own hands across his chest. He asked only for peace, for his wishes to be followed, for no fanfare, no delay, no fuss. One of his most unusual requests: do not bury me for 3 days. Washington feared being buried alive, something not uncommon in his time. As the evening wore on, his breath slowed. He made final eye contact with his friend and doctor. Then with effort he said, "'Tis well." Those were his last words. No grand declaration, no battle cry, just acceptance. Historians have long noted how peaceful his death was, especially for a man who was clearly suffering. This was a man who had seen war, bloodshed, and hardship. Yet in death, he was still measured, calm, and in control. Many witnesses said he seemed ready, almost as if he'd prepared himself for this moment well before he fell ill. In fact, Washington had written detailed instructions for his estate and legacy and revised them just weeks before he died. There was no panic, no desperation to hold on, just a steady surrender, as if he were fulfilling one final duty. Dr. Dick believed a modern surgery could have saved him, but Washington made a different choice, perhaps valuing peace over uncertainty. To those around him, it wasn't just his body that faded. It was as if the man had already stepped away long before the final breath. As president, he gave up power voluntarily. As general, he laid down his sword, and in death, he gave up his last breath without fear. He didn't fight to stay, he didn't beg to leave, he just let go, quietly, deliberately, and entirely on his terms. Why, 'tis well? Was it comfort to his loved ones? A final judgment of his life? Or the last sigh of a man who had nothing left to prove? We often look for meaning in final words. Washington's may be the most honest of all. Nothing poetic, just presence, just acceptance. It's strange how someone so powerful died so simply. No thunder, no spectacle, just the silence of a room and the settling of a great life. The doctors tried, the treatments failed. But the real story was how he approached death, not how it took him. Martha Washington, heartbroken but composed, later said she knew he was gone the moment he stopped breathing. He is now where he wanted to be. In that quiet room at Mount Vernon, history didn't shout, it whispered. A chapter ended with calm hands and a fading voice. George Washington didn't fear death. He just wanted to meet it on his terms, face forward, with dignity intact. His final concern wasn't pain, legacy, or fear. It was dignity. That the last act of his life matched the rest. Quiet, resolved, and selfless. Maybe that's why his last words still echo. Not because they were clever, but because they were complete. For the father of a nation, perhaps the simplest truth was the hardest earned. "'Tis well." Nothing more needed saying. Final words don't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Share this story if you believe dignity is the quiet strength we often overlook. More amazing stories are available at Twilight Tales.